Hello everyone, kia ora koutou. It's 2026. I thought I'd start with a kazoo solo because recently on the Glendine community page, Outraged of Glendine posted a picture of a pea pipe that she found at a bus stop, but it was a kazoo. We're very innocent in Glendine. Anyway, I thought I'd pop in before this podcast because I actually recorded it a while ago now, back in December in Christchurch. Though you can still hear thunder around the motu like you can hear in the back of this podcast. But oh my God, all you Wellingtonians, I hope you are not being spattered by frothy sewer foam from Moa Point leaking out all over the south coast there. Infrastructure in this country is so appalling, and I would say it could get in the sea, but you know, it is in the sea, blowing around and stuff. But bodily functions is a pertinent topic for my podcast in general, but particularly for today's guest, because she loves all things horror, gore, and internal organs suddenly becoming external organs. Also, check out my website, hotpink.co.nz, because I am hitting near 50 cities this year with over 100 performances through Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, which is a little bonkers, but Promise and Promiscuity, The Tempestuous, and Austin Found are hitting the road from Whangarei to Calgary to Canberra to Te Anau, including a whole month with Austin Found in Circa 2 at the end of the year. But enough of me! Cue that music! Kia ora koutou, no mai, haere mai, and welcome back to a frankly, surprisingly quick instalment of Showy Ovaries. I hope you all had delightful Christmases and New Year's with family, or with your chosen family, where family becomes a lot. I am down with my family in Otautahi, Christchurch, so I thought I would book in another Cantabrian to chat about all things fleshy bone bags here over the Christmas period. My guest today is a very fancy doyenne of all things cultural. She has a PhD in cultural studies and turned her thesis into a book called Women, Monstrosity and Horror Film, Gyna Horror, which she defines as horror films that are concerned with female sex, sexuality and reproduction, making her frankly deeply fucking qualified to be on this podcast. It's the pinnacle of her career thus far. Don't have to laugh so much. Her title at the University of Canterbury is a Senior Lecturer Above Bar, which is much better than below bar, but after a few margaritas, who knows? She lectures on all manner of subjects with a special love and expertise in horror. She is the editor of Flat City Field Notes, which has fast become one of the most respected blogs of arts criticism in Christchurch and beyond. She's on the board of the Word Festival in Christchurch, is on the editorial board of the Edinburgh University Press's book series 21st Century Horror. I also read that her thesis is cited 10 times more than most of those other silly ones. She's invited me into her house here in Christchurch, so please slap your dismembered, chainsawed, splattered horror hands together for proud nerd Dr Erin Harrington.
Kia ora,
Kia ora.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me in your whare, nonetheless. And how was Christmas?
Christmas was all right. It was very...
You sound so surprised.
Well, the usual Christmas plans all kind of went up in the air because there's usually a big raucous friend miss on Christmas Eve, which is always really lovely. But the hosts contracted COVID for the first time.
Oh, man.
I know.
Were they all right?
They're all right. They are woolly-headed and tired and bored out of their trees, I think.
Right.
So my partner and I just bumbled around on Christmas Day doing not much.
My husband got COVID for Christmas a couple of years ago. So I went to my friend's for Christmas lunch and got him a frozen roast lamb meal. That when I left the house, he made himself.
Yeah.
We were still keeping separate. I don't know if we would now. I don't know. What is this new world?
I don't know.
Yeah. My mother showed my father she was COVID positive by leaning over his shoulder to show him her rat test.
Oh, that's because sharing's caring.
I know. I was like, Mother, what the fuck are you doing? You know, anyway, so that was that. My brother-in-law and my sister-in-law always watch Jaws every Christmas.
That's a great film to watch.
Do you have repeated Christmas viewing?
As a basic bitch, Muppet Christmas Carol is up there. It's like my twin loves are either gory, horrendously awful stuff or children's media.
Yes. I see you teach both of those at the
I
university.
do.
I was like, okay.
Sometimes there's an overlap. When we had a replacement friend miss this year, just with a couple of people. There was a Die Hard screening, which was good. Usually I try to watch a bunch of seasonal genre stuff.
Right.
Because there's an immense, mostly not very good back catalogue of Christmas horror. And so I watched Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 whilst doing a puzzle, which was very nice and felt very ladylike. And that film...
I've never heard ladylike described in that way before.
Yes, it was genteel.
Yes.
My Frankenstein puzzle while watching Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. And what I didn't realise about that film, having seen the first film, which is atrocious, is that the second film is 1:26 long or thereabouts, but 27 minutes of that is just clips from the first film told in flashback by one of the characters.
Wow, so it's equally dire.
Yeah, Silent Night, Deadly Night again. Yeah.
Wow. What's the Dead Snow? Mm-hmm. Is that at Christmas? It isn't.
No, it's not. It's a snowy Nazi ice zombie movie.
That is fucking hilarious.
It's very fun.
When they got killed on the toilet, didn't they?
Yeah, someone gets shoved like out a window. Yeah, and then wrapped up in their intestines. Great.
Yeah,
it's great.
See, I'm not a massive. Well, we'll get to that. But I love that film. That was. I mean, for me, it has to be funny. If it's not funny...
Horror and comedy, best buds.
Totes. Whereas Saw, Hostel, absolutely no desire to watch that.
No man's inhumanity to man.
None.
No.
Like Human Centipede?
No thanks.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to see someone's mouth sewed to someone's ass.
No, that crosses the line, I think.
Yeah.
But in fairness, that film is kind of a black comedy, but it is... I was about to say in a quiet taste. But how about we just scrub that?
Yeah, no, I'm totally keeping that. Yeah, I was like, for me that's like, it has to be comedy. It's like Scream. Scream was hilarious. It was so funny, and then it had all those scary aspects.
Yeah, I reckon the best New Zealand horror film is Housebound because of
Which
that.
I haven't seen.
Extremely funny, extremely heartfelt, great story about a family, and also quite a good horror film.
Okay, I have a longer introduction for you that I shall do, and then we'll get stuck in. So... Dr Erin Harrington was born in 1981 in Ototahi. She describes herself as a real theatre kid, doing every production in and out of school that she could, the Shakespeare Globe Centre, uni Amdram bits and pieces. She'd go and read scripts in the library instead of going to class, which is funny that you are now a teacher at the university.
Yeah, but the papers that I was supposed to be doing at that time, I all failed, so...
Right. Yeah. Okay. So it's good that you bring a full breadth of the university experience to your teaching. It was at university she started writing criticism, mainly to see shows that she couldn't afford to get into. Then she discovered she really liked writing and reviewing and has done so very well ever since. From books to film to television to audio to food to anything you could review that stood still. She has always loved horror, pop culture, movies, and has delightfully turned this into a career, which is pretty bloody great. She currently teaches such courses as Sex and Sexuality, which sounds like Jane Austen, doesn't it? Sex and Sexuality on Screen, Children's Classics, Popular Children's Texts on Film, and Scream Theory, The Changing Face of Fear. She's clearly good at it, co-winning a prestigious University of Canterbury Teaching Award for Outstanding Teaching and Learning Transformation. She writes for a plethora of publications, including The Spin-Off, The Conversation, The Pantograph Punch, Theatre View, and Stuff, and her work has been cited in the BBC and New York Times. She's an in-demand panellist and moderated on all things horror, including her talk, Why Scary Stories Are Good For You. I particularly enjoyed her recent spin-off piece on the perils of AI, especially this line. Generative AI seems to be a bit like one of those chimpanzees that rich people would adopt, all fun and games, until it rips your face off. So, on that note, please welcome one more time Dr Erin Harrington.
Kia ora. And shout out to my colleague Zeta Joyce, who I won that award with.
And very good at accrediting other people. I found it, what was quite funny, so I read that article about you not liking AI, and it's so true. Everything you said is so true.
Well, and not liking the way people talk about AI.
Yeah, like because you went to a panel at Word that was about let's all love the robots and not freak out.
I got real cross.
Yes,
yeah. And then I had a massive. I was like, yeah, I'll write something. And Claire at the Spin-Off said, do you want to write something? I went, yeah. And then about 15 minutes later, I went, I've got a conflict of interest here. As a trustee of the
Word Festival,
and
right.
had to kind of negotiate. But yes, I got very, very cross at this talk, which I felt was a little shallow maybe, and a little, not unethical, but a little irresponsible in terms of how it was talking about some of these things. But then I was thinking, how are we even most supposed to talk about this sort of stuff at the moment, where It's everything from horrendous tech bros wanting to shoot themselves off to Mars to, students blagging their essays to this, to that, to the other thing. But just going.
So true about those tech bros. You want to go to space, you want to live forever,
you want an
trying
empire.
to figure out your eternal life bullshit, rather than caring about the minutiae of the ethics and morality of what you're doing to local media. It's what kills me, that, social media's come along and killed all local media. Tax my Facebook spend, give it to local media as far as I'm concerned, but they won't do that.
No.
And now Facebook has infied itself so much, as a word, that everyone's leaving it. So now advertising on social media is nowhere near as effective as it was, and then there's no one left to go and try to get the word out about your show to. It's something I just found. Yeah, so it's really tricky. And, there's that whole thing about, the horse is bolted, blah, blah, blah.
But that's the narrative, is the horse is bolted. But, AI is inevitable. It's not inevitable. We get to make those choices. We get to kind of draw lines in the sand. We keep getting, I think because I work in education, there are all of these people going, here's our new AI, blah, 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 fuckity tool that's going to do this and help this and whatever else. And it's like, you don't even know what it does. It's just this kind of gold rush at the moment.
And also the lying of it. So you'll be pleased that I did this, which isn't hypocritical at all. I put into ChatGPT, I said, tell me what Dr Erin Harrington thinks about AI.
And did it go, you can fuck right off?
It said, we can find nothing. I was like, I just read a whole article, thank you, Chat, but it was like, we can find nothing. It could be this Dr Erin Harrington that you're talking about, because of what you do.
Yeah, there's someone who studies the hobbies and habits of Javan rhinos.
Who's called Dr. Erin Harrington?
Yeah.
There's also one that does cognition stuff in the US, like around dementia and things like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I do get a few things about older people from there. But also, I just hope that they're getting as many of my emails as I get of theirs.
There's a woman, this is the worst. But there's a woman who ran for UKIP. Yeah, that's not cool. She ran for UKIP and she loves Nigel Farage. Exactly. But yeah, I was genuinely quite disappointed at how many Penny Ashtons there are in the world. Anyway, enough about me. This is all about you. My first question, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I kind of can't remember. I can remember things that I thought that I might want to be. Like, I remember being asked that quite young and saying, I'm going to be a lawyer. But I think that is because when you're kind of bookish,
you don't know that you can grow up and be a lecturer in horror films.
No, or be anything. And then for a long time it was something very sciencey. Because when I started uni it was doing engineering, which I hated, and then I didn't hate engineering. I hated calculus 4 times a week at 8 a.m.
Fuck.
When you're deeply depressed, does not work. Then you try and do it again the next year and it still doesn't work. But very sciencey, like what can people go off and do in space type stuff. But also I want to write and illustrate. And eventually you kind of spit out the other end and you're still writing. So that's good. But I don't think it was ever, I'm going to be a firefighter, dang it, and everything in my life is geared towards.
Ballerina for me.
Yeah.
It was advertising, but they got to university, so I tried statistics for about a week and dropped that.
Yeah, and you do like weird sort of work placement stuff. And I'd just be like...
Did you do that for engineering?
No, I didn't get that far, but at high school, and you just like, work sucks.
I went to Radio Avon. Do you remember Radio Avon?
No, I don't.
Oh, maybe that was over, but no, I think it was. Anyway, I went to Radio Avon, and this is how entitled I am. I was there for advertising, and it was work placement. The first day I had to alphabetize all of their records. And then I complained at the end of the day that actually I think you'll find I'm here for advertising, not to do admin for records, and you should put me to... But then the second day I wrote 2 ads for the University Bookshop and did the voices for them, and then they went on the air. Yeah. So they got free ads out of me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did RDU for many years actually when I was in university, and that was another one of those moments you're like, maybe I can do this. Yeah.
Because you were reviewing on RDU?
I was. That's kind of how that started. But then I was hosting Saturday Breakfast for a really long time and doing sort of Sunday arts show. And
I didn't look at it as something that like that for me. It's funny. I think about the opportunities that were there at university that I didn't realise could have helped where I'm going.
But also just going, what do people do? You know, when you look around and it's like, well, people are a lawyer or a doctor or a receptionist or a this or a that, or they drive a truck. It was very confusing, and especially because having gone, much like you, to a bougie private school where basically it was, girls can do anything, but actually what you should be doing is working in one of 5 specific professions.
don't know if I got that from my school.
Or be a nanny. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, or a nanny.
Yeah, there was nanny school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the questions about careers, I don't even remember them being useful or interesting, and they seemed more about here's how to like make sure you can apply for med school and not have messed up your prereqs.
Yeah, it was all about school is so important.
Yeah.
Everything you do now will be affect you for the rest of your life, which is such bullshit.
Heavily academic. And then popping out of, and I did very well academically, but then you pop out of that hot housing and all the scaffolding falls away and you're like, oh, that's not the world. That's
I got a B average at university, which if you told me I was going to get that at high school, I would have been horrified.
Well, I started flunking out of papers at uni as well, but yeah. And now there's lots of interesting, I don't know, red flags is a funny term, but there are indicators for success when people come into university and indicators that some people might be more at risk of not succeeding. And a really interesting indicator some years ago, I don't know if it's still the case, was high achievers from highly competitive private schools. Because you pop out of that.
It was a red flag.
Well, it kind of, yeah, because so many people come through that and then all of those supports fall away and that highly competitive environment falls away. Yes. People are left kind of adrift. I would just feel utterly overwhelmed by the possibility of all the things that you can do with your life and the sense, which is, I guess, a bit regressive, that every choice you made blocked out all of these other choices. Which
is because that was instilled into you. It really was. Yeah. And then you look back now and people can reinvent themselves at whatever fucking age they want to.
Yeah, and you can just keep going and going and going. And having conversations with very stressed out undergrads going, if you change your mind, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Whereas...
Because parents aren't really helping with that too, I find sometimes.
No.
Yeah. And like my niece said she wanted to be an artist when she was 6. And my sister went, oh, but maybe you should get a job as an accountant first. Yeah. I was like, hello, sister in the family who's been a full-time artist for 25 years, and even her. And like I had a season in Auckland recently, didn't sell that well, which is because right now it's so hard to sell tickets. And my sister said to me, do you think you're going to get something more stable now? After 25 fucking years. And that's, I'm like, wow, I cannot beat that out of your head, Susie.
No. But also you can't beat it out of our own heads sometimes too, I think.
Yes, there is that. But I'm not going, I'm not going to do this that I've only really done.
Accountancy.
Yeah, especially not that.
Accountancy.
Maybe marketing and the arts.
Yeah, but peculiar especially when you grow up as a quote-unquote gifted child and you're constantly told you can do anything, you can be anything, you can da-da-da-da-da. Like the flip side of that is this deep, almost oppressive sense of, it's like potential as a duvet that somebody's trying to shove down your throat.
Right.
And
that's a metaphor.
Yeah.
So you got your degree?
I started doing engineering and at the time I thought that was my choice. And in hindsight, it certainly wasn't. It was very much, as someone who'd, I was in the Shakespeare Globe Centre Young Shakespeare Company. I'd gone to London with the group from New Zealand to do. I was terrific at English and all of these other things. And I was pretty good at the sciences. But the message consistently was a BA is a waste of time if you want to do this. And also being a woman in the sciences is very good because we need more women in the sciences and engineering. And
so you thought you were doing the feminist thing?
I guess so.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but also having come from a very competitive bougie private school where I don't even know how to phrase this, where the most prestigious thing is the best choice, even if trying actually to do that is a shitty choice for you personally. Like if you don't take the hardest and the most prestigious choice, then you've let the side down. Yeah. And so then in my first year, chemistry, which I really liked, physics not so much, maths, which I tanked out of because it was full year, Russian and American studies and so on. But also mental health, completely tanked. And not knowing then, because I didn't get a diagnosis till the following year, that I had bipolar disorder.
Yeah, right.
And heavy stress, isolation, all of those like supports, and I don't mean human supports, but having regular food and this and proper sleep and this and that, and all of that just went
Yeah.
And
a lot of people I knew at university, I knew 11 people on antidepressants by the end of university. It felt like it was a time. Well, this is sort of tying into our next question, so why don't we go there and then we'll go forward, which is, how has your relationship with your body been like? And what journey has it been on?
Very complicated. It's been lots of overlapping things, and they've often been framed around deficit. So things that work or don't work.
Okay.
And so one thing which I think has informed basically a lifelong interest in reproductive stuff was very like apocalyptically heavy periods just kicking off like the elevators opening in The Shining.
Wow.
At the age of 12 something, and very quickly being put on the pill to help trying to manage that, and then all of the things that contributed to that I didn't know about until much later when you learn more about the medications you've been given. So that sort of resulting in an endometriosis diagnosis, again quite young, and all of that being a whole thing.
It's good that you got the diagnosis young.
I did, and it got zapped out a bit, but it's still never really...
I mean, that shit is... I'm very sorry that you have
I think I got off a lot more lightly than most other people.
Right.
But it was still pretty rough. And then all of the interactions you have with doctors, you're sitting in this space of, am I making it up or am I not?
Really?
Is this hysterical or is this not? Well, things like when you are... when you have constant vaginal pain, for instance, and it's just like, well, how do I know that that's not normal?
So it's vulvodynia?
No, not quite. It's one thing I learnt many years later is that one of the things that can happen when you get put on the contraceptive pill is to do with the thinning of the vaginal walls. Mm-hmm. And that, when you're thinking about a body that is still growing and developing, resulted in like horrendous hypersensitivity. So couldn't use tampons, couldn't use all sorts of other stuff as well. But that just being well, you're a woman.
Yeah. Well, you know about the fact that that's quite a well-known cause of vulvodynia now, and that testosterone cream can help with that.
Interesting. I mean, it's fine now, but...
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. We can talk about this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I can do it. Because I've got a friend who has excruciating vestibule pain.
Yeah.
Because she was put on the pill.
Yeah, and not knowing anything about that, and then that does stuff to your body, and then having like upset stomach all the time, and then that just being, well, you just after attention. And I ended up in hospital when I was 15 because of suspected appendicitis, and that I suspect in hindsight was a cyst or something. And it wasn't until the surgeon went in and was like, oh, we couldn't find much, but we did find that your bowel had adhered to your uterus and you're this or that. And you're like, so I wasn't making it up. Thank you, doctor, who told me I was malingering. Yeah. So there's like that track.
I mean, that's so fucking standard, isn't it, for women's
health?
And
to understand now that's... I mean, it doesn't make you any less angry about it, but I don't know how I feel about it. I feel irritated and sad. And
do you feel more seen now with doctors that you see?
I do, because I've had the same doctor that I've had since I was a student, poor guy, and because he works at Student Health, so I've had him the whole way through. So there's been that, and I feel mostly listened to, but also because of that interest in reproductive stuff and having read so much to do my thesis, feeling very well things. So there was that. There was terrible asthmatic kid who couldn't do any sports. Right. That sets up like a failure narrative about the way bodies work or don't.
100%.
Because I have a hypermobility disorder, which, as I've learnt over time, means that there are things you can do really well, like touch your toes, and things you cannot do, like run. Mm-hmm. And that's been kind of curious and interesting. There's been the mental health and the bipolar stuff, which kicked off with a vengeance when I was about 15, and then kind of went and resulted
in... At
uni. Yeah, so I ended up dropping out a few times and then really dropping out and having nearly 2 years on the sickness benefit in and out of a hospital program, which was really amazing. And then wait. So on top of all of this, the great joy of coming of age in the 1990s.
Yeah.
In the late 80s. So, some of my earliest food memories are of mum eating Ryvita crackers with cottage cheese.
Oh my God. As soon as you said and then I just saw exactly that. Or celery with cottage cheese.
Yep. And the hip and thigh diet book. Yes. And so one of my friends at primary school, who was a year above me, her whole family were quite big like they were built big, and they were constantly at Jenny Craig.
Yeah.
And so, you know...
I was at Jenny Craig at university.
Yeah, so when you are... How old would I have been? 10? And it is utterly normalised for an 11-year-old girl to be dieting and orthorexic, because I just became...
Did you say orthorexic?
Yeah.
What's that?
So that is when you start to, I think that's the term, focus on the measurements of food. So it would be, I can have this but only a quarter of a cup, and I can have this but only 5 grams.
Wow.
And this alchemy that was kind of going on around this weird magic, around the tiny little TV dinners in Salisbury steak that would kind of, you know, come out of the...
Jenny Craig packet?
Yeah.
I remember the Salisbury steak. It was quite tasty. Very cool.
But yeah, so always having this really... What I think now is a pathological and abnormal relationship to weight in my body, which is still there, just like...
Because I just can't cut it out. It won't go away.
No, it won't.
It won't go away.
It's horrendous. It's like this noise, and even if you shut the door, you can still hear the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're at primary school and the ballet girls have already learnt that to pinch an inch is bad.
Jesus.
And, you know, sharing, you know, again, you've got 10 and 11-year-olds sharing dieting tips, and then you're into the 90s and the era of heroin chic, and as someone who, as I got told when I was being fitted for my blazer in third form, had swimmer's shoulders,
Jesus
you know,
Christ.
and never being able to kind of find clothes that fit just as a size 14 to 16 then.
I went to Pants for Pants once to get some jeans, and I was trying the 16, and I said, can I get the next size up? Oh, we don't make those.
Yeah, so it kind of creates this very... I don't know, classics friends, you know, it's a Gordian knot where you can't tease out the different parts because they all interrelate in terms of how you think as a person. When, you know, in the West we are trained to believe of ourselves, conceive of ourselves as basically a brain in a fleshy meat sack. And that, yes, and that we can police that body and we can do all of this, which is really incorrect when you think about the interrelationship of brain and body, and that we think with our bodies and we feel with our bodies, and that is the, you know, it's the interface through which we experience the world in its entirety.
Exactly.
But you have these narratives about discipline and control and self-worth and self-discipline. Like one of the things in a course that I teach on critical theory is talking about the French philosopher Michel Foucault, who talks a lot about prisons and about the idea that the best way to imprison people is to get them to imprison themselves and to discipline themselves.
Like that's what religion is, right? If you make God omnipotent, he can see everything that you do, so therefore you're going to be a feeble little mess.
I guess that depends on your relationship to
yeah, that's the way I look at, you know, religion, and making it that way, that it's a control of the masses if they can control themselves.
Yeah.
It's similar.
Yeah, but the idea that if we can discipline and surveil ourselves adequately, then that is morally good and superior, and fill in the blanks there. But what that has done, I think, is created an incredibly fucked up template that I can no longer kind of pull out of my brain because it's been there for 36, 37 years. And yeah, and it's like adulthood is a constant corrective to that. And the thing is, that's why I was talking to Sonia Renee with the body's not an apology. We know we're supposed to not care about that, but it's just impossible to cut that out. Yeah, and I remember, actually it wasn't that long ago, so Tessa Waters, who is the amazing Australian, New Zealand comic and performer who oversees the feminist clown posse. She'd made a post on, was it on social media or had she said it or something recently, about being a bit dark on the notion of body positivity, and wouldn't it be good if we could just have body neutrality so that we don't get stuck between this horrendous, damaging deficit model where everything's wrong and you have to police yourself, and even if you lose that weight or do this, then it's still not good enough, and it's still not good enough, and whatever else, to a model which is like, yeah, fuck yeah, body's amazing, me, self-love, da-da-da-da-da, which in some ways can be just as pathological. And to find a middle road that's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, because if I know that there are some bigger people that have lost weight and then have gotten hate from the body positivity community, feeling that they're deserting them, and sometimes being smaller is better for health and things like that. So people making those choices or not, and it's such a fraught area. But I think neutrality is a really good.
Yeah, so shout out to Tessa for that. But it sucks though. Like I remember when I ended up on a whole bunch of, I've always been on a whole bunch of medication, so shout out to the pharmaceutical companies for both being great and being horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Going to see a doctor who was a locum at Student Health and being really unhappy that I'd started on this medication, Epilim, which is...
Did they tell you anything about the dangers of unborn children with Epilim?
No, they didn't. And also what they didn't, so Epilim is used as a sort of first choice sometimes treatment for bipolar disorder, because for reasons that I don't understand, a whole bunch of epilepsy medications are also
mood stabilizers.
And seem to work really well.
And I had a realization that my epilepsy pills are also mood stabilizers. When I was like, is this even me? I don't know.
Well, that's a whole other conversation about chronic mental illness.
Similar little pathways along the way.
Chronic mental illness and
epilepsy.
But also the way that it messes with your sense of self, particularly I think in a condition whereby your mood is constantly fluctuating, but your mood is everything. Your mood is your body, your perception, your cognition, your relationships. It's not just like, woohoo, blah, woohoo, blah. But I went to see a doctor because I'd started on Epilim and I was putting on quite a lot of weight.
As it does, yeah.
I can't remember if it was then or another time that I'd been given this horrible antipsychotic called risperidone, which was terrible. And I'm sure it works for some people, but it was trash. And saying to the doctor, I'm really unhappy about what this is doing to my body, and got the energy in versus energy out, da.
Hungry. That's what I was.
And then him going, well, I could put you on Xenical, which at the time...
Oh, yes, that was big at the time.
Yeah, so it was huge at the time. And so this like anti-obesity drug, which basically made you shit out every bit of fat that you ate.
Oh my God, I was just... You just keep saying what I was about. I was about to say, which means you just shit out all the fat.
Yeah. Yes. But do you remember that horrendous ad where there was
There was a tree.
No, there was one with a fat woman like swimming at night, like bobbing around in the water just with her head above because she was too ashamed to show the world her body.
I remember one standing on a tree, and the tree's in the Domain in Auckland, going, that's the Xenical tree. Yeah. Look how slim it is.
That sounds like the title of your romantasy novel.
Yeah, the Xenical tree.
Yeah.
Now it would be the Wegovy tree.
But again, going, this is something that is impacting me, and it's being twisted back around on, well, you're not disciplined enough.
And that happened, so many bipolar drugs did that.
Then I only discovered, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that Epilim also can have really terrible outcomes in terms of hormonal fluctuations, polycystic ovaries, endometriosis, and so on. I'm like, you've just gone and put me on this medication with no conversation about its side effects. And the female psychiatrist.
Yeah, wow.
At the same time as I'm booking in to see a gynecological surgeon.
Do you know about the effects of Epilim on unborn children?
I do. Yeah, but
they
nobody
didn't tell you that then.
Nobody told me. Well, I ended up off it and on 100 million other different things up until the point of being so chronically unwell that I couldn't work and I couldn't look after myself and I couldn't do anything, and ended up...
What changed that?
I managed to avoid being institutionalised, which was great. And I did that by lying about a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow. About
the safety of the place that I was living. And I was just like, if I go in, I'm not coming out. Fuck that noise. So I... For years and years, I'd struggled. How old would I have been at this point? This must have been about 24 or 25. So it would be good and then bad and good and then bad. But each time it got bad, it kind of got worse. And, you're saying that, who am I? I don't understand. You get all of these fractures about your sense of self, and at the same time, physical health is waning because you can't really look after yourself. And I was living with lots of really dodgy people who weren't living very well anyway, and became so unwell that I was just like, I can't function, I can't do this. And I presented to the doctor with a list of as long as my arm, basically, these this is what I'm experiencing. And he kind of went white. This is still now my current doctor. So
He went white.
he did, because I'd turned up as a drop-in patient because, of course, if you can't look after yourself, you can't make appointments and you can't do lots of other things. And I had no money and was very poor. And I ended up being pushed out right until the end. And I think it was just him and a receptionist and a nurse left at the end of the day. And he was just looking at this like, I don't think you can go home. And I told some porkies and did, and then came back. Because I'd already been in and out of psych emergency a few times. And they were very frustrating because they are so under-resourced that you have to be a literal threat to yourself or others for them to see you.
Right.
So I'd presented with really terrible self-harm at one point, and the psychiatrist, whose name I remember, Dr Gideon Dubois, told me I wasn't depressed enough and to go away. And
Jesus Christ. The state, and I think it's not too different now, is it?
no, it's not, and there's no money.
Yeah.
But what happened is I ended up being referred to a program that was run out of and still is, University of Otago at Christchurch Hospital, the Department of Psychological Medicine, and they are an academic research unit, and they do research into mood disorders and eating disorders and a few other things. So I ended up in the care of this amazing group of people. It was run by a psychiatrist called Professor Peter Joyce, who it so transpired I had gone to school with his daughter, and they had psych nurses and they had people who were doing their PhDs and they had this and that, and so they were trying to figure out better treatment pathways. But part of that is that you went in and they're like, firstly, we need to find your baseline. And so I'd be in there 3 times a week. I'd be spitting in cups and they'd be measuring cortisol and doing games on computers and this and that. And I'd be talking to the psychologist and talking to the psychiatrist and talking to the psych nurse. And they try to get you into a position where you are as even keel as a very ill person can be. And then basically trialing stuff on you.
Change one thing at a time.
Yeah. And the treatment program I ended up in was trying to compare 2 different forms of treatment that they knew both worked. They just wanted to figure out which was better, if one was better. And one was to do with early intervention, so you recognise warning signs and you do a whole bunch of stuff around it. The other was to do with sleep-wake cycles and circadian rhythms. And it so transpired, I read the papers years later and they're like, they're both good. So that was fine. But I ended up with them in an acute way, like going in 3 times a week for 18 months. And then I kept seeing them for years after until Peter retired.
And you think that was all the difference for you?
Yes. I would be dead in a ditch if it wasn't for that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and the great thing is that research unit does incredible work, and I know a lot of people they've helped. The sad thing is firstly you have to be acutely unwell to access that level of treatment, which to you is free because it's all being funded. It's all part of the university and so on. And you also have to be referred. So your primary health providers have to know, they need to know that it exists.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they were really lovely, kind, interesting people, and
Do you think you responded to the academia of it all?
When I chat to the psychiatrist, he was quite interested in university gossip. What I responded well to was having the best experts in bipolar disorder in the Southern Hemisphere, basically.
Unsurprisingly.
Looking after you. I just went through medication after medication after medication and eventually found stuff that fit, and it was also seeing a psychologist at the same time because she was training and doing her PhD, and also seeing these other people, and that level of high intervention care, deeply personalised, that's what did it.
And were you studying through all of that?
No,
Right.
I dropped out and
Right.
I was on the sickness benefit.
Right. Okay.
Which sucked.
Yeah.
It was horrible, and eventually was able to go back, but I was only able to go back, and this is really kind of fucked up. My father had died. He was an alcoholic and died quite young. And when the sale of the house went through, and again, it was an inexpensive house, but it was still some money, it meant that I was able to use that money to pay for 6 months of rent so that I could go back and complete my honours degree and not have to work while I did it.
Wow. Yeah, wow.
Silver
linings.
Yeah, and if it hadn't been for that, then I don't know what I'd be doing.
What did you end up getting in the end?
in
your BA in...
the BA ended up in cultural studies, which was kind of new at the time.
Yeah.
And that was that thing where I was trying to finish the BSc in chemistry, and I'd flaked on a lab paper that I had to do, and I had to redo it the next year. But in that time, I suddenly realised, all of my filler papers that I've been doing instead, I've got a BA. I just need 2 or 3 more.
Right, okay.
And so did some film genre stuff and some cultural studies stuff. And
yeah, you do wonder about, that's the thing about access to information, the privilege of being able to access information, and some people, as you say, even knowing those programs are there.
Yeah, and also being able to advocate for yourself. And as somebody who is very articulate and literate, it was outrageously difficult even from that.
Yeah, wow.
But also, like, bipolar sucks. You don't want that. It ruins people's lives.
Yeah.
It kills people.
Yeah.
And
got quite a high suicide rate,
yeah, it does. Yeah. And to have had a really early diagnosis at the age of 19, so I got sent off to a private psychiatrist. But when I was doing this treatment program, the psychiatrist there was telling me, we normally don't see people until they're in their mid-40s.
Yeah.
And that's when they've burnt through a relationship, they're out of touch with their kids, they've lost their job, perimenopause is kicking off. Oh, is that some lightning?
I think it was.
Oh,
At the mention of perimenopause.
Yes.
Yeah.
So most people don't get a diagnosis until then. And also it's really treatment resistant, because if you have cycling moods, then you might take some medication and go, oh, that's great, I'm better. And drop out of that instead of...
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you, because now you're on some drugs that have some quite hefty side effects with your tremors.
Oh yeah, my magic tremor.
Yes, yeah. Like, it's so funny because it's always tricky. Like, we were having a coffee a few months ago, and I was like, you just sort of go, why are you shaking like that?
I just got a front foot it, because people get distressed by it because they're worried about you, and because it's either some terrible neurological disease or you're an alcoholic.
I didn't think that.
Oh no, I do. I have been accused a couple of times of having substance abuse issues.
Wow.
Which I thought was very rude.
Yeah. Oh my God. But I was like, can I pour that for you? That's what I wanted to do.
and it's like sometimes yes, sometimes no. So I take lithium and that results in a tremor. And sometimes the tremor is fine and sometimes it's comically horrible.
Right.
The worst thing is, there's a lot of very annoying things about it. But so when I'm teaching, usually the very first thing I'll say in lecture 1 is, I have a tremor, I'm fine, I'll just tip my tea down my front occasionally and we're all good. But, I do a lot of public speaking and I really like it. And I thrive on that kind of public stuff. But the moment you get that slightest kick of adrenaline, it just sets it off. Oh. And it's not just your hands, of course, it's your whole body.
Oh, wow.
And so like your knees start to go, your teeth start to chatter.
Wow.
I know, I was giving a talk at City Gallery in Wellington, and I was about a sentence and a half in, and I was like, oh no, I'm going to faint. And having to hold on for dear life to the lectern that I was speaking from. Woe betide anybody who gives me a free-handed microphone.
Right.
Holding microphones, terrible. Yeah. Sometimes it looks like you're trying to jack somebody off.
Yeah. Showing off your hand job techniques. So
yeah.
do you like to have a headset microphone or?
Yeah. Well, I need one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, so yeah, it's really annoying. But the things that I could do to mitigate it would be even more annoying.
Yeah. As soon as you tell people a reason, hopefully they're empathetic.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, I've got a tremor, don't worry about it. And if I break something, I'll pay for it.
Don't go into a china shop.
Yeah.
Do you have things like that? Do you have to be careful?
Hands in pockets.
Hands in pockets.
Hands in pockets.
Right. And have you been on lithium for a long time? Have you had that tremor for a long time? Right. Okay. So you're so used to it.
Yeah, I am. It's still annoying. Weirdly, I'm quite good at playing Operation. Somebody cracked it out somewhere, and I think it's because
is very weird.
You get so used to overcompensating.
Yeah.
That
you can suppress it.
Yeah. The flip side of lithium is that eventually your kidneys are going to pack in.
Oh, fuck.
But I don't know.
Right.
Quality of life versus...
Yeah, right, okay. Hopefully there'll be a donor at some point.
Yeah. But it just... I try not to read a lot about bipolar disorder.
Okay.
Because it sucks, it's really unpleasant. I've read a few memoirs and have read a lot of medical information, and occasionally, because I have access to scholarly journals, will go and kind of go, what's the news? What's happening? But it's shitty.
Right. Is it in the family? Because isn't it something that can be...
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah.
Right, okay.
But now the next trick will be what happens with perimenopause.
Yes, so is that starting to kick off? Because how old are you now?
I'm 44.
Yeah, right.
I can feel rumblings.
You're right in the perimenopausal situation.
I can. So my weight is redistributing. Uh-huh. Because I sew, so I know my measurements.
Oh, right, yes.
And I weigh myself every day.
Every day?
So I have, as part of that, look
on my face.
No, hang on. No, there's a reason for it though. That isn't just like being a fucked up child of the 90s.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like that's not healthy.
And that is part of the way that for me I've been able to deal with the illness is to keep a mood diary.
Okay.
And that I have now for about 14 years.
Wow, you sound like Bridget Jones.
Yeah, so every day you measure anxiety, irritability, where you are on a particular spectrum in terms of mood, what exercise you've done and for how long, and a few other things, and weight. Mm-hmm. Because when you track weight over time, not just looking at it as this is what I'm doing today, you can start to see long-term fluctuations, and you can see how they relate to menstruation, but also to mood. So it means that if you realise that actually, and it might not sound by much, but you've dipped down a kilo and a bit in the last little while, then going back and going, is that because of exercise and stuff, or, I see the mood has been more erratic. And so you can use it as a point of triangulation, or I can use it as a point of triangulation in terms of monitoring mood. Do
you usually have a low before a period, or?
My PMS day is a murder day.
Jesus.
Like it's bad.
Wow, okay.
It's like, yeah, it's not good. But again, when there's a really consistent year, now I've got years worth of data and I can kind of go, okay. And it means that anytime you're feeling really shitty, you can go back and go, how long does this usually last?
Yeah, right, great.
Is there something that will turn it around a bit? Is it something you're just going to have to suck up for the next few days?
Because I guess you would be going, is this menopause or is this bipolar?
Yeah, but for my whole life I've been going, is this bipolar or am I just a fucker?
Well, I think we can stop that.
Yeah.
Stop that.
But you know what I mean? Like, you're constantly going, particularly when it's all over the show, you're like, is this me? And is it not? And what am I accountable for? I mean, you're accountable for everything you do. But is that me? But I tried really hard there, and then I flaked, and then I felt good, and then I felt terrible. And then I was super creative for 6 weeks, and then I wasn't.
Right.
So how do you situate the subjective self within that?
I mean, that's why it's so hard. I mean, I can see why medical people for a long time went, we're just not going to study ladies because they're too difficult.
Yeah, we're just
going
to
make heart meds that don't work on women because we didn't study it properly. But those, hormonal fluctuations and everything coupled with everything else does make it hard to try and determine.
Or we'll treat men, but we'll go stick women in an asylum and drill holes in their brain.
Exactly, which is why we have many more women during menopause in asylums, etc.
Yes.
Right. So do you think that you would have been in this field of study without all of this?
Maybe not. I'm always really liking horror stuff. Like one of my first earliest film memories, and it's very patchy, is accidentally watching bits of The Fly, like David Cronin.
Jesus Christ! At what age?
Like 6, maybe. But always being interested in like spooky, monstery, whatever stuff. But it's always been about bodies and body horror and the fact that we are these crazy, unruly things. So,
and that started before.
Yeah, definitely. So like my 4th form science project, such that it was that when everybody else was like making, rockets and terrible volcanoes and stuff, I ended up writing like a booklet about menopause.
Which is amazing. Like, we've only just started talking about this in the last 3 or 4 years in New Zealand. And you were doing it in
1996, I think it was.
I was going to look that out. Yeah, right, okay.
Because I think one of my mum's friends was hitting menopause, and I don't think it was great. Because my mum had like an early hysterectomy.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, most of the members of my family on both sides have had bits ripped out of them at various... So I don't know what the normal, quote
And they
unquote...
certainly did it in the 80s, like, oh, you're a bit confusing, let's take it all out rather than try and figure about it. Yeah, same with my mum.
Yeah, so just always being really interested in that. And so when I came to do the PhD, I always knew I wanted to write about women in horror, and I was interested in menstruation and birth and motherhood and abortion and abstinence and first sex and motherhood, and then when I converted that into a book, adding stuff on menopause and stuff as well. So it was always, like, I'd always been interested in science, always interested in bodies, always interested in monstery horror stuff, and interested, I think, in the sorts of stories that you can tell in that genre that you can't tell in any other way. Because often they are about resilience, and so I'm just listening to the thunder as well, which is very apropos. Stories about otherness, stories about flux, stories about uncertainty and confusion, because monstrosity, you think, oh, boo, monsters, but monsters are about borders and boundaries and what rips them up, and highlighting what we think is monstrous, we go, well, actually that's the norm. So all of these monster stories are always about, what does it mean to be human or not? What does it mean to have a body and to be a body? What stories can we tell through the grotesque and through the monstrous and through the disgusting? And what can we think about in terms of edge cases? What's the weird stuff that we don't like to talk about? But how does it then kind of manifest in that? And I guess in science fiction and in other stuff as well.
I mean, all of the shame that women have had forced into their bodies, is that something that manifests itself in a horrific way in this sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, perfect example would be Carrie, like the Brian De Palma film of Stephen King's book, and the menstruation, the fact that she's this strange goblin of a woman and so on. And women kind of sit in this really interesting place in horror because women's monstrosity, and this is something that an Australian academic called Barbara Creed has really famously written about and is hugely influential. When you have male monsters, they're just kind of male monsters. When you have female monsters, that monstrosity is almost always to do with reproductive stuff. So they're these kind of monstrous mothers, or it's about birth, or it's about menstruation, or those sorts of things too. So thinking about the female experience through the lens of horror is, I think, very liberating, because you get to talk about and look at and address and explore all the things that societally you're told to shut up and put in a box.
Gotcha.
So, and this is increasingly the case actually in the last maybe 15 years, maybe a bit longer, where there's been this real influx of women and trans and non-binary horror filmmakers who are telling stories that are much more from their subject position, as opposed to more male-authored stories, which are often, ooh, yuck, gross vagina.
What did you think of Poor Things as a man writing that?
I mean, I enjoyed it, but I found it a bit odd.
It was a bit odd. I enjoyed it, and I could see that it was about a woman taking agency, but she was still a 2-year-old.
But she was still just like this little sex puppet.
Yes.
And there's this horrendous history of, I guess, female robots as sex puppets.
Sex bots.
And, a terrible history in horror and lots of other genres of women as victims. And that you're meant to, as the viewer, luxuriate in their suffering as much as anything else. But women love horror. That's the thing that hasn't really been accounted for up until recently, is that even these horrendous films from the 70s and 80s in particular, there's huge female fandom for them, because even though they might be really misogynistic, there's something in the representation that's going on in those films, be it about narrative or character or just affect and feeling, that a lot of women look at and go, I know that, I understand that, because I know that to be a woman in the present day is to feel afraid, or is to feel objectified or victimised. And there's this powerful sense of catharsis that can come about with some of these films, to kind of recognise the horror and the misogyny, but to see that the misogyny is the horror, not the female body and the female experience.
Right. Have you ever wanted to write one?
Not really. I enjoy responding to other people's work more, I think.
Okay.
I think I'm better at that.
Right.
And thinking and using other people's work to think through different problems.
And what that means for society, etc.
Yeah, and also, film is film because it's telling stories in an audiovisual way that words can't account for. But you can meet a film and kind of go, what are you doing? What are you talking about here?
Right, okay.
So I enjoy writing back against other people's work more than I think I'd enjoy doing my own.
Right, okay. And do you think you've come to a point of acceptance with your body at all? Love it.
So much so that when you sent through like a couple of questions last night, like, what's your favourite body part and this and that, and I ended up totally spinning out and going...
I apologise.
And no, it was interesting. It was interesting. And...
Did you come to a favourite body part?
No, not really.
Not at all?
No, I came to... But then because then I was going, what does it mean for something to be the favourite?
Yeah, or favoured.
Yeah. In the end, I was like, well... You know, I've kind of lost the genetic lottery on a few things. But one thing I won is that I've got really good teeth, and I've never had to see an orthodontist.
You do have very good teeth. They are straight as fuck.
They're so straight that when I had to get my well, this is good. When I had to go see the oral surgeon about getting my wisdom teeth out, they were so easy because they're so straight that I got a discount.
I've never heard an orthodontist giving a discount. That is a true unicorn moment.
Yeah.
I don't have any. I am stupid. No wisdom teeth for me.
Wow.
I know.
Incredible.
I know, they're just like not there. Yeah. I've been quite lucky with my teeth as well. But yours are like, and I've got spots on mine that show.
Yeah, they're very straight.
They're so straight.
Yeah.
Like you look like, you know, somebody goes to Turkey to come back looking like you.
But thinking about, you know, like I've been trying very hard through a whole bunch of different means to go, this is the house that I live in. How do you look after the house? And so going to the gym at work has been really good in recent years, which of course is good for your brain as well, and all of these other things. But having a very, not ambivalent, but I don't know, it's like if you had a Siamese twin and both of you kind of hated each other, but you knew you had to live together.
That's how you feel about your body.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
You know, that, as I say, it's the very thing that keeps us here.
Yeah, because like I fucked, you know, because of the hypermobility stuff, I had knee surgery in high school and it never really came right, and that's always been a problem, and there's this and there's that and so it's always just kind of like, well, I guess we're stuck together. How are we going to make this work? Because it can work or it can not work.
Do you think you'll stay in academia?
I hope to.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm good for anything else.
I would dispute that.
Yeah, but
it does feel a good fit. You've used many longer words than most people do on this podcast.
And it's a vocation, I think, and I really like it. It's just that academia is kind of shitty, and
like the publishing thing's crazy.
Yeah, and you're constantly, particularly in the arts, constantly under attack from stuff, and you're really at the mercy of political whatevers. So, for instance, last year, Judith Collins announced that the Marsden Fund, which is basically one of the really, if not the biggest kind of public funded whatever, and it comes through the Royal Society, just all the humanities and social sciences and whatever else stuff you can't apply anymore.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's something would change under a...
I don't know, who knows?
Yeah, who fucking knows?
So it's very hard to get a job. If you lose a job, good luck to you. It can be very challenging and stressful. It's really inequitable. It's still something that isn't very good for women. One academic, when I got my PhD, said to me, you'll learn really quickly that, you know, there's a reason why female academics are either divorced, childless, or both.
Wow.
I was like, okay.
Did you want to be childless?
No.
You wanted children?
Yeah, so my ex-partner, well, I'd always wanted children. My ex-partner and I, it got to the point where I had been referred to a maternal, I can't remember her title. She's a psychiatrist who works specifically with people with pre- and postnatal depression. It was out at Princess Margaret when that was based there. And it was to go and talk to her ahead of time before becoming pregnant, to basically be on the books so that if something went wrong during or after a pregnancy in terms of postnatal depression or psychosis or anything else, then you were in a better position. Because one of the key fuckery things for bipolar disorder, on top of medication non-compliance, and which is a terrible word, but that's the word there, is that disrupted sleep can trigger episodes.
Oh, fuck. Right.
And also there's lots of weird stuff about things you can and can't take while breastfeeding. So she was saying, we have to recommend that people don't take lithium while breastfeeding. But of course, if you're coming off, and I'm on 4 different medications, if you're coming off medication that has worked for you for years in the interests of breastfeeding a baby, well, where does the interest lie?
Yeah,
and
she
said,
the epilim thing is so the same.
Yeah, and she was saying one of the really hard things in her field is that you can't do any research. You just have to observe, because it's unethical to experiment on little babies.
Yeah.
But it's also unethical to ask people to ditch their meds. And anyway, but that relationship ended, and which was a good thing. And then the relationship that I'm in now is with someone who didn't want children. And at that point too, it was getting to the point where it's like, well, this is heading into quote unquote geriatric pregnancy type stuff. So, and then you look back and go, I know lots of people who had kids who never wanted kids. And one of them said to me once, well, you can have mine. I didn't want them. I'm like, fuck off. Yeah. It's a really horrible thing to say. Yeah. But when you look back and go, but I made all the right choices. Yeah. I didn't have a kid by myself. I didn't have a kid while ill, while on the sickness benefit, while studying, while da-da-da-da-da.
You mean like the societally correct right choices? Yes. Right, okay.
But also having a kid with someone who I didn't realise, but who had quite serious substance abuse issues at the time. That too would have been a bit of a corker.
Right, okay. But, have you made peace with that not happening?
I feel very sad about it, but I also thought this is a good academia thing, which is that I'm in a position as someone without children to help people who do have children. And so part of that is trying to help fellow academics who are mothers who might have young children, or to work really hard to support students who have children, to, so what are the things, what's the work that you can do, or the understanding that you can bring to that, to go, I want to try and make life for my colleagues and students who do have children as easy as it can be, given this is an environment which has historically for hundreds of years privileged young men who have a wife and a child off in another building.
And that's pretty delightful, because some people might swing the other way. Who knows? Like some vindictive people, obviously, like, oh, get your children away from me.
But also, if, academia has not been pleasant to women who have kids. So it's like, well, fuck it, we're all in this together. So you don't whip the ladder up after you.
Exactly.
In a patriarchal capitalist society, there are so many structural things that try to punish women at every step along the way. And if, hello, fellow academics, let people bring their kids to supervisory meetings, or to class, or to this, or make separate allowances for people who are primary caregivers, including people who might be looking after unwell or disabled family members. It's the way that we all hopefully can try and get the best out of each other to do that. And
delightful. Yeah.
And that's something that I'm happy about. But I do feel sadness about it, but that's just, you just figure it out. But realistically, given a chronic mental illness that I look after really well, and lots of other things, I don't know that I'd cope very well without a partner who is able to be there all the time for that. And I certainly don't think that I would be able to have the job and do it in the way that I do at the moment.
Right, okay.
If I have kids. That might have been different, decades later when you're a bit older and kids are a bit older and so on. But I don't know how I would have coped.
Right, okay. Okay.
When just coping on a day-to-day basis is usually fine, but sometimes not. There's a lot of sitting there going, well, is it that? Is it this? Has my thyroid finally given up the ghost, which it's been threatening to do for years? Is this perimenopause? Is it just me being a bitch? Is it just me being that, so...
Righty-ho. Well,
so one less thing to worry about.
Yeah, well, that's what I like. I don't know how kids would have fit into my life, that's for sure. It wouldn't be my life.
Yeah.
With all the touring and stuff that I do. So I think we've yabbered on for quite some time, and we could do so for more time, but do you have a fun fact?
I have 2 fun facts.
Yes.
I thought of 2. One is health relevant, and that is that nobody knows how lithium works.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they know... So
how do
lithium...
they know to try it?
researchers know some of how it works. They know, well, it does stuff to enzymes there and it does stuff to neurotransmitters there, but otherwise they just know that it works.
Right.
And I think part of the issue is that because it's not a patented medication, there's just like not a lot of money for people to figure out.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But it works. And I remember my psychiatrist going, we know it works. Works pretty well, but...
Right.
So
okay,
just,
good.
And the second was, I was trying to think about a body horror fact. And one that cracks me up is in the film The Thing, which is John Carpenter's like set down in Antarctic, whatever else, and there's this shape-shifting kind of alien. There's a monster that is formed out of this thing eating one of the sled dogs, and these dogs all kind of turn into this giant proliferating gross
thing,
disgusting sticky dog. But the special effects designer Rob Bottin called it the giant pissed off cabbage, because it just, all of these tentacles and all of these mouths just look like a beautiful Savoy cabbage.
Was that the 50s?
It was based on, very loosely on a film from the 50s, which was based on a short story, but this was from 1982.
Do you have a favourite horror?
Things up there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is probably a very common answer, but it's amazing. It's like strange, apocalyptic outsider art.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing's incredible. I use it in class and I never ever get sick of watching it.
And do you prefer that sort of thing as opposed to the psychological...
I don't know, it would depend on the film,
right.
I think.
Right,
yeah.
okay. I watched The Poseidon Adventure, which I'm aware is not a horror film, but when I was 8, and I was terrified the house was going to turn upside down, and then basically avoided all... like, I didn't watch Nightmare on Elm Street. I was like, oh my God, it's about going to sleep. I can't sleep enough as it is about stuff like that, so I've avoided all of that. So, yeah. So do you love Halloween?
Like the holiday or the film?
The holiday. And the film.
I feel ambivalent about Halloween, and that's because Halloween in New Zealand happens at the wrong time of year. I think.
Gotcha.
I think if
Imported
it were
American bullshit.
Kind of. Like it's an autumn festival,
mm-hmm.
and I think that's really cool. Whereas it seems a bit weird, just kids shaking you down for Kmart lollies. And their best cheat ghost.
Exactly. Anyway, is there anything you'd like to plug? Your book? Any upcoming things?
Not really. Just like support women doing stuff.
Support women doing stuff. Yeah. Here we go.
Go buy a ticket to see something. Go see some music. Go see some art.
Yeah.
Read a book. I've been really struck by, and maybe it's the algorithm knowing that I'll give money to stuff, but just every other, I don't know, Instagram post or whatever else is people asking for money. Help us save this theatre, help us go overseas, help us do this, help us feed the people in our community and so on. So if you have any money that is just going to be going to frivolous shit, then maybe think about who you can help with that as well.
You're very delightfully helpful to all manner of people, I would say, including me for coming on my podcast. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's an hour and 20. I believe there will be some editing. No, absolutely. I think we could talk forever. So thank you very much and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yay. Thunder, thunder, thunder.